Today we're on the west bank of Luxor exploring the Valley of the Dead, and we found the most stunning architecture and vibrant tombs while exploring the areas that were dedicated to the queens of Egypt. We're starting at the Mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut. Again, I'm probably butchering the name, but I'm going to do my best. This temple is an architectural marvel built into the cliffs here at Deir al-Bahari. It is so stunning. It features 3 dramatic terraced levels with halls connected by ramps, and what makes it particularly striking is how it grows out of these limestone cliffs behind it while maintaining perfect symmetry. The ancient Egyptians called it the most sacred of sacred places. We're going to take one of these electric vehicles all the way up to the temple. All right, here we go. A lot of the noblemen and the priests and priestesses that worked for the queens were buried up in those hills. And they did talk to us about the story of Queen Hatshepsut and how one of the kings, Thutmose III, I believe, defaced the temple. There was a lot of controversial stories about letting a queen rule, so I'll try to give you a summary of the history while we walk the temple. I heard it work here. So they said on this, the only thing that's real is the eye pieces, the painted eyes. The rest of it was reconstructed. You can see this one had been destroyed. The head is all chiseled away. Now, this is one of the major advantages of coming with a very educated tour guide, is he really gives you the thorough stories that explain the situation with each of these temples. So I'm trying my best to take notes. I'm learning as I go along, and I'd like to bring those stories to you. This is a long, you can do steps or the ramp. Actually, I think I prefer the ramp, although it's a little slippery. More tombs for the high officials. He said that the Valley of the Kings is just over that hill, and they used to let tourists ride on donkeys up and over the hill, and it was really hard on the donkeys, and they have stopped that practice now. So much of the temple was destroyed so badly that they are having trouble reconstructing all the pieces. Queen Hatshepsut herself has a very intriguing story from ancient Egypt. She began as a queen married to her half-brother Thutmose II, but when he died early in his reign, his son, Thutmose III, was too young to rule. Hatshepsut initially served as a regent, but then took the unprecedented step of declaring herself pharaoh around 1473 BC. To legitimize her rule as a female pharaoh, she created a powerful origin story. She claimed the god Amun had visited her mother in the form of her father, making her of divine birth. The story was depicted on the walls of her mortuary temple. So this middle terrace is the one that's original, but most of it has been destroyed. But he's going to show us what he can. It still remains. There's a little bit of color left. You can see color right along this bottom line here. And our tour guide has stated there's been deterioration since he was here last. He can't find a lot of some of the images he was trying to show us that explain the story of her. In official artwork, this queen was often portrayed wearing the traditional male pharaoh garb, including the false beard. These representations sometimes maintained feminine features, creating a unique hybrid imagery that reflected her unusual position. She ruled for about 22 years. and was one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs. She focused on many building projects and trade rather than military campaigns. Her famous trading expedition to the land of Punt is extensively documented on these temple walls, showing exotic goods like incense trees, gold, and leopard skins that were being brought back from Egypt. Now, what's the most mysterious aspect of her story is what happened after her death. Years later, many of her monuments, including parts of her mortuary temple, were defaced and her name was removed from the king's list. This wasn't discovered until years later when her temple was being cleared. There are various theories as to why this is done, but none have been proven.
The combination between that bronze horse and Hatshepsut was here. He also destroyed her image there.
That's terrible. I bet it was so beautiful. So while this temple is quite beautiful, I didn't really understand what it was used for. In ancient Egypt, it really served several important religious and ceremonial functions. It was a temple for the cult of the dead queen, where priests could make daily offerings to sustain Hatshepsut's spirit in the afterlife. It also honored the god Amun with a shrine dedicated to him in the temple. It hosted several important religious festivals, particularly the Feast of the Valley. So all those colored images were on the end, on the second story, and that was pretty amazing that that color is still there in the original condition. Unfortunately, the images of the queen had been defaced and damaged. Her mortuary temple continues to be restored. The Polish-Egyptian Archaeological and Conservation Mission has been working here since 1961, and you can still see active excavations going on today. Unlike other mortuary temples, she's not actually buried here. She was officially buried in the Valley of the Kings. In this area, he said these are the finest carvings of cows here in ancient Egypt in this particular temple. Or sanctuary. It's actually sanctuary. We haven't seen a lot of the colored temples so far, so that makes this one a little unique. All right, so our tour guide is not focusing on the upper and lower levels, as I said before, because it's been reconstructed and it's not original. But I'm gonna go up there one more level just to show you what it looks like, what the views are like. A lot of smog in the distance, but back here by these cliffs, the sky is a gorgeous shade of blue. So it makes for some really beautiful photographs. So I was reading that the design of this temple was for various functions. So the lower terrace contained gardens with exotic plants from Punt. Okay, thanks for the warning. They're gonna try to get you to take pictures. The middle terrace featured two chapels, one for the royal cult and one for Anubis, the god of mummification. The upper terrace housed the main sanctuary for Amun and chapels for Hatshepsut and her father. So they said even the little patches of color here and there very persistent is fake, just to... Oh, that's pretty. This has all been reconstructed. But to be surrounded by this fort, just the rock is so pretty.
You know, if you think about it, they put capsules and everything in there. Strategic.
Yeah, be up on the hill and
Up on the...
Dear tour guides, kindly don't explain inside this part. I don't understand what that's about. But it's a sanctuary, I guess, maybe. I need to go up there, that's fine. This is very beautiful in here. And I was told they're very persistent over there about insisting to take your picture and get money. Just so you know, before we leave, there are some other tombs here in the area that you can see. This is at the bottom of the hill near the parking lot. There is another tomb here that you can visit. In fact, it looks like there are several other things that you can check out in this area. And now we're heading to the Valley of the Queens. So we've now arrived at the Valley of the Queens, and earlier when we were at the tomb of Queen Hatshepsut, I'm pretty sure I said it was at the Valley of the Queens, but that was not correct. That is a separate site, and so we drove just a little bit longer, and now we're at the Valley of the Queens. We're going to visit 3 tombs. There is Queen Titi and her children, and there's also a tomb of Queen Nefertari here, but that one is currently closed for restoration, so we're not going to be able to see that. They said the caves on either side here are actually tombs of various queens. Our guide said there was a brand new restroom here right at the entrance that was not here the last time he was there. So there's probably good restrooms. You do typically have to pay 10 Egyptian pounds, which is about 20 cents, to visit the restrooms in the public spaces. That is Queen Nefertari's tomb right there. 2,000 Egyptian pounds to visit there. Only 10 at a time are allowed in there, but it's closed. It's a shame we can't visit. The first tomb is of a 12-year-old prince that died. There's also a mummified fetus in that tomb, and they are disputing where that mummified fetus came from. Now I can't pronounce his name, so I'm going to show you this sign here.
Tying the scarf around his head, that's what I was doing. Same like you.
Thank you so very much. That was so kind.
It's going to be dark, so I'm not going to be able to use this camera. I'll have to show you from my cell phone once we go in. It is protected. Oh, good. I'm glad to see that it's protected in here. These tombs here in the Valley of the Queens were the most beautiful. The colors were so incredibly vibrant. I just couldn't believe it. I had no idea they had anything that looked quite like this here in Egypt. it's not quite as in good a shape.
There's a guard in there that will show you more vibrant cave if you like.
Going up to the third tomb. He did tell us that after you died, there were 70 days until the tomb had to be sealed. That's how long it takes for the mummification process.
And made it popular and translated into different languages. That was the time which drove the attention.
A little bit of a steep climb here to the third tomb.
A lot of boats
the
from
name?
using the Suez Canal as a navigational canal. We have the same
We also-
concept of the first tomb, Sawalik. It's the father introducing the son to various gods.
Images of the father introducing the son to various gods and goddesses. And it's very dark in here. So these are the 3 tombs we visited here while we were at Valley of the Queens. I can't imagine what Queen Nefertari's tomb looked like, if that one is the best of them all, because these were really incredible. And you know, it did seem like we had the Valley of the Queens all to ourselves. Our tour group was pretty much the only ones there. So be sure and subscribe if you want to see more of the amazing things there are to do in the town of Luxor. Thanks so much for watching.